Hello, and welcome to the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith podcast. We call it the SRNF podcast. I'm Dr. Ann DeSantis, the executive director of the foundation, and I have a wonderful guest for all of you today. I have Chris Pushaw. He is the president of the Pro-Life Union of Greater Philadelphia. Chris, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Ann. I know that title can be a little bit of a mouthful, so sometimes I trip over it, but you did that flawlessly. But very, very glad to be here and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And we're really grateful because the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation is a member organization of the Pro-Life Union of Greater Philadelphia. We're so grateful. We were featured on their podcast actually a couple months ago. So if you get a chance, just go to prolifeunion.org, and I'm sure the information is there, and subscribe to their podcast too. I just want to tell the people that are watching this podcast that are not familiar with us, maybe the subscribers to the Pro-Life Union, a little bit about what we do. So we were founded in 2015 by the Mercedarian Religious Order, and our mission is free pastoral care for individuals and families in crisis through the spiritual works of mercy. So we say spiritual works of mercy because we really focus on that pastoral care, the fact that we offer the free priestly consultations, whether there be to talk to a priest or spiritual direction. So if you want to learn more about what we do, all you need to do is go to our website at nonatus.org. And we also do retreats in the greater Philadelphia area. Namely, we do a lot of those retreats at the Dalesford Abbey. I know Chris was a participant in our last retreat
Great
during the
retreat.
Lenten season. And we also have wonderful events. We have our celebration supper, which is coming up at St. Charles Seminary in Lower Gwinnett, Pennsylvania, which is going to be on December 12th, 2026. So again, if you want to learn more about that event, it is a fundraising event. We're going to be giving some awards that evening too. Please do learn more about what we do. So we have lots of wonderful things to talk about, not just about what we do, but mostly about what the Pro-Life Union of Greater Philadelphia does.
That's
So,
right.
Chris, just start us out with the basics of what the Pro-Life Union of Greater Philadelphia, what do you actually do to help people in this area and beyond, especially those who are trying to really instill a culture of life in this whole society?
Yeah, thank you, Ann. It's my stock 30,000 foot view elevator pitch is getting better. But you've really keyed on a couple of things. One is that, the Pro-Life Union, we're really the leaders of the pro-life movement in the Delaware Valley. And leadership has its challenges because obviously we bring a multifaceted approach, but our mission is really to restore and rebuild a culture of life in the Delaware Valley. And is that to kind of model that, nationally, globally, and so forth. But really, we take as our aim, the Pro-Life Union goes back almost 50 years. Certainly, it's almost contemporaneous with Roe. Our founder, John Stanton, he was an original Project Rescue guy. He would get thrown in jail for, for witnessing outside of abortion centers. And that his son Patrick, who's on our board, certainly carries that historical legacy forward. We're kind of at an age where I think, I've been outside of them and really you see that what I see the sidewalks is really the great spiritual battleground. I mean, first of all, you're really confronted with the forces of evil. You see how truly demonic Planned Parenthood is. In leading the pro-life union, again, it's a multifaceted effort. Sometimes I wonder with the advent of mifepristone and the prevalence of chemical abortion, that accounts for almost 70% of abortions now. So you have to be judicious about where we deploy limited resources because Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry, they're always going to have more money than us. They're always going to be more well-resourced. So again, that to me is sort of our spiritual hallmark, and that's part of our public advocacy outreach as leaders. We also put on the Philadelphia March for Life every year. We had that last year. I'm sorry, just this past spring. And it was an interesting moment because we had scheduled to have Ryan Baumberger, who's a historical colleague and a pro-life warrior, BRMC. And of course, not to throw shade at Amtrak, but let's just say that Saturday morning he was experiencing technical difficulties, couldn't come. So me and Joe Aquilante and Marlene Downing prayed to the Holy Spirit, and lo and behold, the program came together. We had the Sisters of Life, we had Daniel Drain speak, we had a lot of sort of extemporaneous speakers, but really the capstone was having student leaders get up. Joe invited student pro-life leaders from Devon Prep and Bishop Shanahan and all over, and they really spoke from the heart. And to me, it's sort of you never question, the crosses that God puts in front of you or that you think are crosses because there are really those moments of grace that come out of it. Apart from advocacy, in terms of our direct programming, we have our Guiding Star Maternity Home in North Philadelphia in Germantown. So that can hold up to 7 moms who've made the choice for life, but are, really in crisis and need a safe and welcoming and comforting environment to bring their kids in. I mean, to tie it back to what Raymond Nonatus does, I mean, a lot of these women are coming from situations of very deep-seated trauma. Their boyfriend might have rejected them, abused them, encourage them to get an abortion, but they're making the choice for life and we're helping them to make it. And we partner with Catholic Charities, Elena Howard and Yaz Copper, really do a good job in creating that environment. And Elena put it best when she said, we're not building a shelter, we're building a home for these women. And there are, in addition to just the shelter itself, we offer chastity programs and life skills training. We partner with another associate member organization, Every Good Gift, to, once the women are kind of stabilized and they have their child and they're kind of moving forward, it's like, okay, well, how do I build a life for the child? And how do I escape this cycle of dependency? And Every Good Gift, we just had them on the podcast Friday. Jill and her crew do a very good job of offering these women life skills training, resume review, workshops, and really, gives them projects that can help them. Another program we offer directly through Catholic Charities is the Cenacle. That's a pregnancy resource center that operates in the downstairs of the Padre Pio Center in Frankfurt. So we basically rent space from the Capuchins and the Catholic Charities. We actually have made a really good recent hires. But that again offers women counseling, life skills training. It gives them a break. There's a playroom where they can just take a break from being moms. They can run laundry. They have access to, diapers and necessities and, anything that they need to sort of, again, help them in their journey. I'm in my mind, I'm trying to save the best for last, but those are sort of the brick and mortar, I would say, interventionist approaches that we have that we're out on the front lines, walking with the women and outside the barricades. But really, how I conceive of what the pro-life is and where it's going is to build a culture of life. You need to create a mentality and an ideology that supports life. Right. So I think, I'm about a year and a half in, but one of the things that we were very excited to put on was a symposium at the Our Lady of Czestochowa Shrine back in February, actually on Valentine's Day, to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Evangelium Vitae, the Gospel of Life that John Paul offered actually back when I was at Catholic University. And I think what was important about it, I mean, first of all, we were pleasantly surprised. We got almost 200 people to come out in the snowy wastelands of Doylestown, although the shrine itself is absolutely gorgeous and very inspiring. But it was encouraging to see. And I think we had a number of different speakers taking on a lot of different facets of the Gospel of Life. So we had Sister Gaudia Maria talk about the encyclical itself, what led to its formation, how John Cardinal O'Connor had blessed their work, but also influenced the formation of the Gospel of Life. We had a great panel on IVF that was really expert testimony was given by Dr. Monique Ruberu, who's a former board member, Tucker Brown, who is the development director for Facts About Fertility, and Barbara Rose, who's the head of the Gianna Center. I mean, they really gave a very in-depth look at something that's often overlooked, even by Catholics and even by pro-life Catholics, that hey, you're helping couples who are struggling. You are, but at a cost of embryonic deselection and really sacrificing children to do that. Other topics, we were fortunate to have Mark Houck, who actually secured the site for us, talk about living the gospel of life and walking that walk. And certainly anyone familiar with his journey and his ordeal through the Department of Justice and looking at 11 years in jail for being on the sidewalk, what better person to speak to that? We also had Pastor John Brown, who was another recent podcast guest, talk about bringing an ecumenical perspective to the gospel of life. Certainly it is Evangelium Vitae was a Catholic encyclical, but it's not limited to the Catholic Church, and we really need to build those bridges. And we also did Sister Dee Dee Byrne and Dr. Joe Zalot from the National Catholic Bioethics Center did a coordinate presentation on physician-assisted suicide and euthanasia. And finally, we're fortunate to have Father Mike Mannion, who actually wrote Article 99 of Evangelium Vitae. He talked about post-abortive healing, and he had copies of his book, A Cry to Be Whole. I know that goes hand in glove with the great work you guys do. So that was really kind of, I think, a watershed moment. And again, I think a lot of what we're trying to do is education, letting people know what abortion is, what the culture of death is, and more hopefully giving them the seeds and the armament to go out. Once you know about it, you then have to evangelize it
Hmm.
and build a culture of life. And, it can seem a daunting challenge, but it can begin at home. It can begin at a cocktail party. It can begin right in your church. But we are called to witness each in our own way, whether that's sidewalk advocacy, whether that's helping a woman, whether that's speaking. And so fortuitously, that's one thing that I'm really trying to be a driver of in terms of that education. And again, a lot of these are obviously mutually complementary because you see the proof in the pudding. When a student speaker impromptu takes the mic in Independence Hall and talks about what the gospel of life means to him at a young age, these kids can just see the truth. You see the gospel of life at work, and you certainly see the Holy Spirit at work. Just one final aside, it's hard as leaders to also be in this sort of direct action. And one of the beauties, and I think the charisms of the pro-life union is really that we work with and through our associate member organizations. You had mentioned that at the beginning. We had talked about that on our podcast. And it's a really interesting model because, a lot of our associate member organizations, first of all, they participated in the Evangelium Vitae conference. So we had the National Catholic Bioethics Center, Students for Life, Biking for Babies. On the education side, Gen Life. On the maternal care side, as I call it, we have Guiding Star, obviously the Cenacle. We also have Good Counsel Homes, Alpha Care, Magnolia Women's Center, just so many that, we offer support, encouragement, facilitation, sometimes financial assistance. But certainly how I see what the pro-life union can do is offer a platform to really support and educate people about their mission. The podcast, by the way, that we keep calling it a podcast. It's actually a live radio program on WWDB every Friday from 11 to 12, but it's called Life on the Line. And really, I envision it in addition to our weekly roundup that goes out, which is our e-newsletter, as kind of a broadcast extension of that to give people an idea in the area of what's going on in the pro-life movement. But most importantly, to give our associate member organizations an opportunity to tell their story, tell how they help people. And when you were on, I thought we had a great dialogue. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know, even though I was at the retreat and with you and Mickey, and hopefully you can come back on. But I think a lot of, again, what's sometimes lost in the shuffle is that people get wounded by abortion. People are very wounded by the culture of death. And, a lot of times they're just struggling with that. And I think that's why we're very proud to have organizations like Raymond Nonatus pick up the torch. I mean, you're not confined to post-abortive healing, but certainly faith-based counseling and just picking people up when they need to be picked up. I think that's a great charism in and of itself. And that's why we were very fortunate to have Father Mike on, because again, I think one of the unfortunate perceptions that never go away about the pro-life movement is like, oh, well, you care about the baby, you don't care about the mother, and you're out to judge and all this other stuff. And no, like we walk with the women. We know that abortion's a great scourge, and that's why programs like Rachel's Vineyard and Project Rachel, and certainly the Raymond Nonatus Foundation, we're very proud to support that work because there's nothing you can do once you've made that decision to bring the child back, but you can be made whole as a person. So I think again, we have a mixture of a direct and an indirect mission. I certainly have enough to do on any given day. So, but I appreciate the opportunity to explain just a little bit about what we do.
Well, thank you. You did a great job giving people some information. Of course, there's always more.
Yes.
And I invite you to subscribe to the live radio
Like,
show,
yeah.
Life on the Line, and go to the Pro Life Union website at prolifeunion.org. Now, this show is usually around 30 minutes, a little bit more than that.
Okay.
So we do have some more time to talk.
Yeah.
But we would really like to hear a little bit about you, Chris. I know that your predecessor was Tom Stevens, who is
Hmm.
actually still with the Pro Life Union doing a
That's
different
right.
role. You are the president, and you have your own journey to share. We would love to learn more about you and your faith and just how you got to where you are and just what you've learned.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I kind of describe myself as sort of a sleeper cell Catholic. So I was never someone who, was pro-choice or pro-abortion, and I think I checked all the bells and whistles, right? I went to Catholic grade school, I went to Malvern, I went to Catholic University. I was a lector, I was on my parish council. I was also an attorney, and I think like for a while I kind of got lost in the sauce in terms of having and cultivating a personal relationship with Christ. I kind of fell into the trap of, I've been given many gifts, and I think at least my mom got through to me. You have to use your gifts to make the world better and to give honor and glory to God, but that doesn't mean God doesn't play a role in all that, and that's where I think faith comes in. And as an Augustinian and proud graduate of Malvern, one saying that I've always taken solace in is, act as if everything depends on you and pray as if everything depends on God. Um, and the reason I'm getting choked up is it wasn't until recently, comparatively recently. I'd mentioned Mark Hauk before. We actually played football together at Catholic University back in the 90s. His track record, just in terms of spirituality and being, the great work he does with the King's Men speaks for itself. But I remember, I would go on retreat every year, and I thought the one that Raymond Nonatus did at Dalesford Abbey really helped me. But a couple of years ago, Mark brought me to one of his Samson healing retreats that he holds in the Pine Barrens, and I was handpicked to be, I was one of like 7 or 8 guys, and along with different guides, Father Jim Hutchins was our retreat leader. We were very privileged to have him. He passed away earlier this year. Just a really holy, holy man, and I was very happy that he took my confession. But what happened during the course of the retreat, it was 3 days. It was very intensive. Mark had us out in the woods building crosses and working with our hands. But the centerpiece was every night we would gather, he would put on a roaring fire. No phone, no light, no motor car. It's just you, the guys, and God. And we would basically, he would give us a crucifix and we would kind of tell our story. And then there were guys on this retreat who had just severe trauma. Again, it's a healing retreat. And I'm talking about sexual trauma, childhood abuse, domestic abuse, problems in their marriage. And it was just galvanizing to hear these stories. One guy came in, he had to, I think his wife had called the cops on him and their child, and the child or the son was in some violent altercation. I don't even know how he got to the retreat, let alone how he was still standing. But the reality is I start looking around and I'm saying, I love my parents. Like where's my trauma? You know what I mean? And what I realized was my trauma was I was, for whatever reason, for many years consciously distancing myself from God and his love. And I didn't realize how much Jesus loved me. And your journey, your faith journey is your own, and that's with Christ. And I was, for whatever reason, not realizing the wisdom and the logic of that. And also, more importantly, uh, imprinting it on your heart. God knows everything about you and he still loves you. He just wants you to open up the frequency. It's like a really good friend, but a divine, really good friend. So and I brought all that out and I just wept like a child for 15 minutes. Mark remembers it. but it was healing for me because my trauma I was putting on myself. It wasn't external, right? So I was a prisoner of my own mind and my own spirit. And so I had been leading pro-life ministry for 25 years. I used to be the head of Pennsylvanians for Human Life, which is an educational outreach in the area schools. As an attorney, I would talk about Roe and Griswold. This was before Dobbs. And then I had been called out to the Pennsylvania Pro-Life Federation in Harrisburg, and that was, I was leading a political lobby as well as an educational lobby. And I had left that to actually run Mark's campaign. And right before I took the helm at the Pro-Life Union, which, as you say, is in transition in terms of leadership and really where we're trying to go and build on our strengths, but take it in a new direction. It was an amazing retreat to be part of to get me spiritually formed and ready for those challenges. So that's what I can tell about my pro-life journey. And one of the things that I can say is that, when you're absolutely at a breakdown point, that's where God is for you.
Mhm. Chris, I did not know that story. So thank you for sharing, not just with me, but everyone who's watching. And I know that your journey, your faith journey, your pro-life journey, whatever you want to call it, your relationship with Christ
Mhm.
is enriching to yourself, but obviously when you share it with other people, it really makes a difference for those
Yeah.
who you're sharing it with. So I want to thank you so much for taking that time to give us your story.
Yeah, it's hard and
Yeah.
it's still, I mean, it feels like yesterday. And I might be a client of Raymond and Nodis at some point, just just to give you a heads up. But
Well, for anybody who's
yeah,
watching, right?
this
Anybody who
really,
needs
this,
our help.
yeah, the healing really works. But yeah, and it's something that just a sidebar to loop back to, I believe God has picked me for a reason to lead the movement and in my own way. And I was talking to Mark about like Thomas Merton's journey the other day, that sort of it's these fits and starts, and you think that what you're doing is the right thing, and then it doesn't work out, and then you say, God, what do you want from me? Like
Right.
I'm here. But what the one thing I'm going to mangle it, but the one Merton quote was that, I'm trying to earnestly follow you, God, and I know that you love me, even trying to do that is giving you honor and glory. So, it's really been an interesting journey. But one thing I'll say about my time, just backtracking a little bit at the Federation, I took over for Michael Chicachopo. I took over for Tom at the PLU, and Michael he was a very devout, very serene, holy man. He had run the Federation for, a long, long time. But I remember him saying before he took the reins, he said, Chris, this job will bring you closer to God. And I think we might have even touched on that in the podcast. And at the time, I didn't really know what he meant by that because, again, I hadn't really developed, oddly enough, for all the prayer and the retreats and the masses. And like, I hadn't developed that personal relationship at the time, at least not that strongly. And so I certainly could see the wisdom of what he's saying because at the end of the day, I mean, these are the holy innocents that are being sacrificed in the womb, and abortion's not just destroying the babies, it's destroying mothers and families. And so there is a lot of trauma here. So some of it, as I said, when you're on the sidewalk, you really, what's the one line from the Usual Suspects? The greatest trick the devil ever played is convincing the world he didn't exist.
Hmm.
But he's out there. And I think in an obverse way, someone told me the whole reason William Peter Blatty wrote The Exorcist is that basically if we can get people to believe in evil, they can hopefully believe in God.
I have heard that
Um,
before too. Yes.
so again, it's something that, yeah, you kind of, there are these fits and starts to it, but you do know that in the end, God is there for you.
Mm.
And it's worth taking up the cross and doing these battles.
Amen. Amen. Again, thank you. Now, as we're coming to a close, what I'd love for you to do, if you would, is to let us know we're taping this and it's going to be shared in August 2026,
Hmm.
early August, and you have some events coming up toward the fall and the end of the year. I would love you to give everyone that information about these events.
Oh, I happily, and thank you for the opportunity. And so principally, August in theory is a fallow time,
Mhm.
but we're, the idle hands are the devil's playground. So what we're in the midst of doing is coordinating a kind of multifaceted outreach for Respect Life Month. Respect Life Sunday this year is October 4th. And so we're working with the archdiocese and other AMOs to basically do a two-pronged attack where with the Office for Life and Family, we're trying to do a clarion call to the parishes and the pastors to say, like, that this has to be a driver of our mission, right? You have to make this important on Respect Life Sunday. But what we can do and what the Pro-Life Union is uniquely positioned to do is do a more grassroots inductive approach to get people in the pews, first of all, to learn about the gospel of life and to challenge them to build a culture of life and to also tell them, look, we have the resources for you. Among other things, we talked before the show. I went into lugubrious detail about the Evangelium Vitae conference, but for those of you who couldn't attend, that whole symposium is going to be available on YouTube. And so if in your parish you need a presentation to show on the gospel of life, on post-abortive healing, on euthanasia, that could be at your fingertips. And that's just, we're also going to have a Respect Life newsletter, and just kind of a panoply of options to help at the parish level, Respect Life leaders, pastors, and everyone in a cooperative enterprise to build that gospel of life, to build the culture of life, to evangelize the gospel of life at the parish level, because that's really where it starts. It starts any battle starts one soldier, one platoon at a time, gaining ground. And I think the big thing we want to do is coordinate with as many parishes as we can, with the idea that we move forward together. This is a cooperative enterprise, but it is essential that the gospel of life means something to you. And I think, Dobbs was a watershed decision. A lot of people thought Roe would never come down. But unfortunately, I think that galvanized the abortion industry itself. And I think a lot of people have, abortion fatigue. And part of what our strategy is going to be with Respect Life Month is to say, yes, the culture of death is insidious and it's horrible, but the culture of life is beautiful, and it's something that's a unique charism, and it's something that you can build, in a quiet way, in your own way. You can witness on the sidewalks. You can build that culture in a lot of ways, but it's essential that you take a leg up. So we don't want, the outreach to start. Obviously, Respect Life Sunday is going to be the key driver, but it is Respect Life Month, and we'd love to work with parish pro-life leaders and our AMOs to sort of keep that awareness going throughout the entire month, and the schools. I mean, as I said, if the youth aren't getting the message, what hope is there for our future? But encouragingly, you do see that. You see, parishes on fire with new Respect Life leaders, and schools like, Archbishop Carroll and Martin Saints and other schools that I visited. Really, those kids get it. And it's incumbent on us. The other thing I'll say is, we're starting an initiative with Generation Life to find young pro-life warriors and young acolytes, and it's going to be an interdisciplinary program. Some of they'll be deployed on the sidewalks, but a lot of it is just, a formation and evangelization program to really develop young pro-life warriors and to get them to be future leaders for this movement. And a lot of Respect Life Month leads to our banquet, our Stand Up for Life dinner, which happens, it's the last Sunday before Thanksgiving, which I believe this year is November the 22nd. It's the largest of its kind in the area and probably throughout the state. I mean, I don't even know that the Federation was close, but we get about 1,200 people. We get 300 students. This year, we're blessed to have Dr. Bill Lyle, who's known as the pro-life doc. We actually, when I was at PHL, he gave a very in-depth clinical presentation. To anyone who's heard him, he is just an amazing, amazing person. He's a great, great OBGYN. And he talks about, in his own way, what he calls authentic reproductive life-saving healthcare. I think women's healthcare is being bandied about to include abortion or chemical abortion, and obviously that's just a travesty and a very grievous contradiction in terms. But Dr. Lyle's work, and he's really dedicated his life to arresting that, to save children and to save moms in the womb. And his presentation, we're really excited to have it. We're very fortunate to have him. And so that'll be the end of our working year, I guess. So, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about that.
Oh, 100%. And we'll be there, by the way. And
Excellent.
so, for those who are watching this podcast, look for us. We will have an exhibitor table for the Stand Up for Life event, and we're looking forward to being a part of it and standing up for life. And as we end this podcast, I just invite the people that are watching that aren't familiar with us again to please do visit our website at nonatus.org. Make that free pastoral consultation with a priest. You can do that either in person if you're in the Philadelphia area, or you can do it online because our priests offer Google Meet or cell call too. And everything that we offer, all of those services are free. Aside from our retreats, there is a fee for the retreats, the
Mhm.
ones that we do at the Dalesford Abbey.
Very reasonable.
Thank you. Yes, we do try to make it very reasonable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thank you, Chris, and thank you all for watching. And Chris, did you have any final couple words before we end?
No, I again, Ann, I really appreciated the opportunity and the platform, and obviously, one of the things that I think is really amazing and dynamic about the AMO model, as I sketched it out, as Ann said, one of the things we do at our banquet, I call it the AMO fair, but before the dinner proper, groups like Raymond and Nada. So I think you were the first table I visited last year.
Yeah, we were right in the
Um,
front.
yeah, exactly. And they're actually based in Our Lady of Lourdes, which cosmically was my first parish growing up in Overbrook. But we'll have, Alpha Care, Magnolia, Generation Life, Students for Life. And one of the great things about it is, a lot of what this movement's very difficult and there's a need for camaraderie and fellowship. But it's an amazing opportunity. People really do get interested in these respective missions. And we're just very blessed and very proud and honored to be able to support those missions in any way that we can. So we're very glad that Raymond Anonymous is a part of it. We're very blessed that to share your mission. So if you and Mickey and whoever else want to come back, where the life on the line is now an hour, we can get more into it. So, but thank you today for this opportunity.
Oh, 100%. We want to have you back again.
Okay.
So please, we do invite you to subscribe. Now, the channel on our YouTube channel, it's called Philly Nonatus for the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation. So thank you. God bless you. And thank you again, Chris. Everyone have a great day, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Ed.